Hello and welcome to this tutorial video for the new version 1.1 firmware update for the T-1 by Torso Electronics. In this video we will go through the highlights of the new features introduced with this update and show you how to use them. In the default track view, multiple tracks can now be edited simultaneously. Here we got one track triggering a kick sound and two other tracks triggering two different percussion sounds. Multitrack editing allows us to change the rhythm of the percussion tracks at once without changing the rhythm of the kick track. In this example we have 5 pulses on track 2 and 7 pulses on track 3. A multitrack selection is done by pressing and holding one of the value buttons and then pressing the tracks that should be part of the selection. You can see that the selected tracks are lit in orange. Now the parameters can be changed by turning any of the knobs. These changes will apply to each of the tracks relatively, which means that turning the pulses knob one step to the right will result in 6 pulses on the first track and 8 pulses on the second track. Holding a knob and pressing the value buttons in a parameter menu makes absolute changes to the track. This means that all tracks will share the same value. Here we set the number of steps to 14 on both tracks. Now let's try with 2 tracks that trigger tonal content. Here, the multitrack editing is useful for quickly changing the scale using the scale knob. Or changing the octave using the pitch knob in combination with the red modifier buttons. Additionally, all tracks in a pattern can be edited by holding the pattern button. This allows for quickly applying changes to the entire pattern. This can be used for utility purposes, for example if we want to add swing to all the tracks by turning the timing knob. Now let's clear the pattern. Also, pattern editing can be used for creative purposes. Here I add pulses to all the tracks in the pattern. Set the scale to pentatonic. And add random melodic variation using random modulation on the range knob. Another new feature is the ability to change multiple cycles at once. In previous versions of the T-1 firmware, making parameter automations with cycles caused the parameters to be locked outside cycles mode. This has changed in version 1.1, where changes outside cycles mode are applied to all cycles at once in a similar way as multitrack editing. Note that since 1.1, the cycle menu stays active when double tapped, until either the cycle knob is tapped again, or when the bank button is pressed. As always, the cycles menu is active when the bank button is red. Let's try it out. Here we have a track with 5 pulses and a chord entered in the pitch menu. Now let's create a chord progression by changing the chord on cycle 3 and 4. We exit the cycles menu with the bank button. Now that we are outside the cycles menu, we can transpose the pitch in all cycles by simply turning the pitch knob. The new firmware version also introduces pattern chaining. Pattern chaining allows patterns to be sequenced to play one after another. Let's try to copy this pattern and add some random voicing in the new pattern. Now we can sequence these two patterns by holding the pattern button and selecting them in the same way as we did with multi-track selection. The patterns will start to play in a sequence, playing each for 1 bar. But now we encountered the issue that we made a cycle sequence which is longer than the pattern's quantization setting. Let's go ahead and change it to 4 bars. We access the quantize parameter by holding Control and turning the quantize knob. Now let's go to a new pattern. Another new feature is that we can copy parameter values between tracks. Let's create a track with 5 pulses and add random modulation on the range knob. Now we make a second track with 5 pulses but playing on another MIDI channel. If we add random range to this track, it will play a different melody from the first track, as each of the tracks have their own random modulation sequences. If we want the same melody to play on the second track, we can copy the value of the range knob by holding Control and Copy, and pressing the range knob and then selecting the second track. Note that we can also paste on multiple tracks. Version 1.1 also introduces the Clipboard as an extension to the existing copy feature. The Clipboard allows us to copy parameters, tracks and patterns between patterns and banks. To copy a track to the Clipboard, hold Control and Copy and double track the track that should go to the Clipboard. Let's copy track 2. The clear button is now green until the Clipboard is emptied. Note that the clear functionality is not available while the Clipboard is full. Let's paste the track into the first pattern. To paste from the Clipboard, hold the clear button and press the destination track. The Clipboard is emptied by double tapping the clear button. Parameters and patterns can be similarly inserted into the Clipboard by double tapping a knob or pattern while holding Control and Copy.